All right. According to this is live. I'm just checking really quick on YouTube. Do, 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 do. Oh, yes. Okay, cool. Um, we are live. Awesome. Okay. So and this is going to be my debate slash conversation. And we have Wendy here, top left corner, and then have Saul, top right. Um, Wendy is not officially a vegan by maybe some people's standards, but leans towards veganism, and Saul is vegan. And so the reason I say this is sort of a debate is because these two will kind of share their ideas and maybe convince each other why each of their ideas are right or wrong. And then I might step in and challenge them with different questions, but I might share my own thoughts. So I'm sort of a moderator, but I'm sort of not because I'm not going to be impartial. I am a vegan, and I might share my thoughts. My thoughts are a little more unique than a lot of people, so I guess it won't be the standard vegan thoughts. But anyways, if anybody watching this has any questions for either Wendy or Saul, just put them in the comments, and I will ask these guys the questions. And at the end of this, once we're all done, and maybe after these two are gone, I might stay on here to discuss things further if anybody has any questions for me, and treat the end of this almost as like a ask me anything type of thing. So with all that being said, so Wendy, how about you share on veganism and your own situation? I'll just respond to what Wendy says.
All right. So I'm currently in like a vegan journey transition sort of phase. Um, what's kind of important to know, I think, that I haven't said yet, is that I had fallen really deep into the keto, um, kind of paleo keto, like movement, if you want to call it a movement. I mean, it's more of like a propaganda kind of thing, but I really fell into that like really hard for like the past like 2 years of my life. And so it really made me prop up my cognitive dissonance on animal cruelty a lot, because if on the one hand I'm being told and believe these ideas that the optimal human diet is actually to eat a lot of meat, and to have all this animal fat and stuff like that in my diet, well, then of course I'm going to extra want to ignore the ethics of the situation. So I was kind of in a bit of a not complete denial, but just ignoring it. And once I started to finally recently come out of like realizing that keto is more of like a conspiratorial kind of movement. Um, and I can see that plant based eating, especially whole food plant based eating, is actually healthy for humans. I've been allowing myself to really take in the ethics of the situation. So I'm in a transition period. Um, I've it's tough. I've already decided to get out all meat, so no meat in my diet at all. I or no dairy either. I have no dairy, no meat, no eggs. I still have some things in the house that I'm finishing, but I'm not buying. I'm not going to buy it anymore. I still have. I'm considering fish. I'm uncertain about that. I'm considering, if I do get rid of fish, I'm considering keeping bivalves, so clams, mussels, oysters, scallops. Because I mean, and again, I'm really interested to hear both of your opinions on this, because I was looking up that like they in particular don't have the capability of suffering and sentience that even normal fish do. So I'm really curious about your opinion on that. I'd like to hear other vegans' opinions. And then on the other hand, too, um, I know another thing is honey. Like I have products that I'm buying right now that include honey. Otherwise, they have no animal products. But so that's another area where like I'm sure I would be called a non-vegan because I'm buying these kind bars, I think is what they are, that include honey. So that's where I'm at right now. I want to move forward, but I don't want to go so quickly that I overwhelm myself and I drop it altogether. And I've been really digging into vegan channels and reading some vegan material. So I'm getting there, but I still have questions about certain things like the bivalves and honey and stuff like that. So yeah,
You want my opinion on it? Everything you said?
yeah.
Yeah, no, I think you're pretty much like I would say I would consider you pretty much vegan for the most part. Like I feel like those things aren't that big of a deal. I never look too I don't consume honey, but like I know some vegans that do consume honey and people are like you're not vegan because of honey and like I feel like I never really dive deep into that, like why like honey isn't vegan. I think some bees die when you take their honey away or something like that, so it's not like perfect. But then again, like when it comes to veganism, like when you're growing crops, small animals do die in fields and stuff like that too. So it's like I feel like no matter what, something's gonna suffer too. So I feel like honey's not really like a huge deal breaker, you know. And then the whole oyster thing. I've heard about that too. I've never experimented with it. Like, I know they're not sentient though. I've heard of that, and that you can eat them, but I'm pretty sure a lot of vegans would disagree. It's like that's not vegan. But I don't know. I never honestly, I couldn't. It's not. I would say it's definitely less sentient than like a pig or a
Oh
cow.
yeah.
So
Because one point, for me at least, one point that that I am kind of using internally is that if I couldn't kill something myself, I shouldn't eat it. And I know that I would not be able to even kill a lobster. Like I can't kill a lobster. I wouldn't want to kill a fish. However, I have cooked mussels at home before, and they're technically alive when you put them in the steamer. And I am able to, I know like it's not like a complete justification, but in my mind, like I'm able to do that. And just knowing that they're not sentient, I think it's okay. And I really, well, again, the whole issue of I really enjoy these things is not, like the best reason, clearly. But it's just those three things coupled together where I really do like oysters and clams, and they're not sentient, and I can, like, my own ethics don't stop me from steaming them myself. So
yeah, I think that's not too bad. I think that's I feel like especially like going vegan, I always tell people I like a baby step approach too because I feel
yeah,
like a lot of people dive into it and then they don't do it right or it gets overwhelming and then just like oh this is stupid and then give up. So I think the way you're doing it's really smart and like some vegans might disagree, but I think doing it that way, like you're doing it the best way possible and like the most ethical way possible. I think you're doing it in a good way where you're going to be able to do it in the long run. And maybe one day you could look more into the muscle thing. You might be like, I don't want to eat these anymore. I don't feel the need to. Like maybe like it's just something you need to do for like a year, maybe a few months, and then you can fully transition over. But
yeah.
it sounds like you're pretty much already there. Like you're like you see the ethical side of it. When I first went vegan, I wasn't ethical at all. I was just doing it for my own health. So
Well, yeah, that's what spawned it for me. For me, it's always been health was kind of slightly above ethics, which is why the keto thing, I was just like, well, hey, if the keto is right and I have to have meat and saturated fat in my diet to be optimally healthy, then I'm going to do that. Admittedly, the nutrition aspect is slightly higher because of my own personal want to
yeah.
be healthy. But now that I know plant-based eating is healthy, I was able to allow myself to go also towards the ethics.
I'm gonna hop in here for a quick sec. Wendy, it's interesting because we haven't talked since our talk like a week ago, and
Yeah.
you were definitely leaning more towards vegan than most non-vegans, but you were still eating meat. So you decided to stop eating meat how long ago?
A few days.
Okay.
This is very new. This is extremely new. It's one of those things where it's like you push over one domino and they fall very quickly.
Hmm.
Like I am trying to do it in steps, which is why, I mean, I took a big step. Like I'm not doing dairy or meat at all. But for me, I think for a little while keeping certain like fish products, seafood
Hmm.
is going to help me be able to continue, and then potentially be 100%, like Saul said. But yeah, no,
Gotcha.
this is only a few days. And the other thing that is a concern for me is that I live with a partner and I cook. So I also need to think about him. I
Mm.
can't it's not like I can make him be vegan. However, if I am all of a sudden like, okay, you like I'm not making any of this stuff that you're used to eating every single day, like you're not getting any animal products whatsoever. This is like a night and day thing. I don't want to overwhelm the person that I live with and I cook for. So
Mhm.
that's another consideration where I don't want to go too quickly. I'm going to go as quickly as it makes sense to, but I don't want to overwhelm both of us.
Gotcha. And while we're on the topic, I'm curious about Saul's answer to this question. Now, this wouldn't factor in with you because you live with somebody that means that there will be like animal products in the house. You just aren't consuming them yourself. But in a case where everybody in a house is going to go vegan, but they still have they have non-vegan stuff in the fridge. Saul, what are your thoughts on should people just finish up what they have? Should they throw it away if they can't give it to anybody?
I feel like no, I feel like you can either give it away or like we have to like if you're not technically vegan, you might as well like I would say just eat it.
Yeah.
Like you know because like if you just throw it away, then like it's kind of like what did the animal die for anyways? You might as like you already paid for it or just, I feel like if I was in that situation, I'd probably just give it away. But like there's some animal products in my house sometimes because my stepdaughter's not vegan, so. So like
Oh, gotcha.
yeah, but like it's not like a lot of stuff. Like I think it's like she has some eggs and like a couple of like random things, but like not no meat. She like and sometimes chicken nuggets, but we got her on the chicken nuggets. She like the vegan chicken nuggets. They taste the same.
Oh,
So
Oh,
really?
cool.
Wait, really?
yeah, they taste like the same. They some things
I
like
have to
literally
find
the
something
exact.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah,
What's the best brand chicken nugget for you?
I like the incognito.
Okay.
Mm.
I'm gonna have
Incognito
to try
chicken.
it. Yeah, I'm gonna have to try it.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
taste exactly the same. Like it's like some things like you can literally get the vegan version of it, and it's the same exact thing as the meat. So
Good
Yeah.
to know.
Yeah, Wendy, I'll send you some links. My favorite that I've tried, I try to stay away from processed stuff, but I fail at it all the time. So for the chicken nuggets or chicken strips, there's one called Darling, I think the brand name is.
daring,
Oh, is it Daring? Okay,
daring.
Daring. Yeah.
Mm.
And then Impossible has their own brand, but I'll send you a link to those two and the one Saul talked about.
Yeah,
Okay, cool.
daring's not too bad. Like I'll eat some like I eat daring chicken a good amount. Like it's not too like I don't worry too much about the processed food. For the most part, I eat mostly whole foods. But like
Mm.
when you're lifting weights and stuff as a vegan, like you want to have some like mock meats and stuff like that. A lot of vegans want to do just whole foods, but I feel like if you want to build muscle, you're gonna have to do some mock meats like tofu, seitan, which is like minimally processed stuff. It's not. I feel like
Yeah.
it's healthier than like ground beef or like or animal products. Still, I still feel like it's a lot healthier. It's not bad for you.
Yeah.
I don't like the impossible stuff though too much. I feel like
Oh,
Gotcha.
really?
I feel like I know they use like glyphosate and like it's not the healthiest product. I stay away from that stuff if I can. But like every
Yeah.
once in a while I'll get like an Impossible Whopper or something. Like
I
maybe
don't
like
go to fast food at all, so
once a year or something. Like
yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So I want to comment really quick on Wendy's idea on the bivalves, and
Mm.
mostly I want anybody watching this to maybe help answer this for me. So I've been looking into it myself. I first heard of bivalves like maybe a month ago, and I thought maybe it was its own thing, and I didn't realize it was a category of seafood that would be essentially brainless animals. So clams and oysters and mussels and scallops, they all are technically animals for whatever reason, but they do not have brains, and it's pretty well thought of that they don't have the ability to feel pain. So in my mind, it's like there's nothing to it. Like I don't see any problem consuming this. Hopefully this doesn't sound horrible if somebody thinks there is a problem. But yesterday, for the first time since being vegan, I purchased a can of, it seems maybe wild caught, I think it said, of clams. I did not open this can yet. So anybody in the comments that wants to talk me out of this, let me know. I can still return it, and I did not put it in demand if I return it. But I am vegan because I don't want to cause any suffering, but I also don't want to cause any deaths. But the deaths would only matter if it's something that is having any form of a life. I can't imagine something without a brain having a form of a life. So in my mind, especially at a starting vegan, somebody starting, definitely eat those things. And a lot of people talked about how Alex O'Connor, Cosmic Skeptic, how instead of eating fish and whatever else he's consuming, he should have just went from
Yes.
his form of vegan to his original form of vegan to eating bivalves. So if anybody wants to talk me out of these clams, put it in the comments. Other than that, Wendy, I'm going to throw it back to you.
Oh yeah, no, I was just gonna throw one tiny point out there that I heard that the bivalves kind of have more of a scenario where they just react to stimuli in a way like how I saw a vegan mention or it was in a book mention the Venus flytrap plant where like it's not consciously thinking to it's not like oh there's a fly on me now I'm going to close around it and eat it. It literally just reacts to the stimuli of something being pressed down on it, and that's not sentience. And that with the bivalves I heard it's somewhat similar, like that's kind of almost the level, like it's just like like when you bring the mussels home and they're a little open, if you tap them on the counter and they just close automatically and like that. But that's all I wanted to say.
Gotcha.
Do they have a central nervous system? Like, do they feel pain? Like, how does that work with
I don't
those?
think
Correct.
so.
There's no central nervous system and no brain.
So
Supposedly
it's
they move
basically just
around
like
like
it's just a hunk of meat.
Yeah.
like sometimes they're referred to as the mushroom of the sea, but it's slightly different. Like I think some of them have like mouths and eyes maybe, and so there's something that makes them classified as animals, in the same sense that like insects, lizards, birds, like all types of animals are animals, even if it's not like a mammal. And so something makes them classified that way. But yeah, you need a central nervous system and a brain to feel pain. I think it's pretty well understood that if they feel pain, it's kind of like the same thing. Like if a plant feels pain, if we were to discover this in the future, that somehow without a nervous system and a brain, that something could feel pain, then I guess we'd have to react to that when we discover it. Some people react just in advance. They just say, since it's classified as an animal, they want to stay away from it.
Yeah. So what about mushrooms? I know mushrooms aren't considered like a vegetable or a plant. Like there's something
They're
in like
fungus.
they're like
Fungi, yeah.
yeah, and like isn't mushrooms like somehow like close to meat or something like somewhere like it's people I've heard that too. Like mushrooms are like meat and plant in a way, and that's why like
Could be. Yeah, I don't know. I just know that they're like really healthy.
Yeah.
yeah, I eat them.
Yeah. All right. So, okay, Wendy, you cut out eggs too? Because I remember our last talks,
Yeah.
that was kind of like your main thing. You wanted
Yeah,
eggs forever.
I decided I looked more into plant-based nutrition and I saw, that eggs actually do like eating too many eggs increases the saturated fat, increases your cholesterol and stuff like that. And I already have been taking like a B12 supplement and like, some supplements. So I'm like, what do I have against that? I do have an entire carton of eggs in the fridge still because this is very new. So I have a whole carton of eggs in the fridge and I have been considering whether to use them or I could give them to my sister maybe. It's one of those things that I don't really know what I want to do yet, keep eating them or not. Like I had a whole pack of chicken breasts in the freezer that have just been in there for a while. So when I decided, okay, I'm not going to buy meat anymore, let me make these out of the freezer so that I'm not wasting them and we'll have our last meal with chicken and so that sort of thing. But yeah, I'm cutting out eggs too because like you said, like the dairy industry is pretty much just as bad, if not worse. Well, yeah, I mean dairy and egg industry. So yeah, I wanted to cut those out too because I'm not convinced that I need them anymore, and that really was what was holding me back. being convinced that I needed them. That's really what it was. I knew that if I could be convinced that I didn't actually need these things, I already knew subconsciously for years. I've known that the animal like exploitation is wrong. Like I think most people know that. Most people have that inside. It's just our culture doesn't allow it to come to the surface. Um, so once I saw that eating eggs is not necessary, I was like, okay, well then I can get rid of them then.
Gotcha. Yeah. I was just reading something in the comments here, and this might be referring to a conversation that people are having in the comments. But Vegan Pundit points out veganism is an ethical stance, not a health movement. And so I just wanted to bring the question to Saul because it kind of relates to what Wendy's going through right now. If there was a detriment to one's health for going vegan, would you stop doing it? Like for you, is it the mixture of the health and the ethical, or is the ethical such a strong point for you that even if you let's say right now, what can you bench right now?
I don't know. I'm a bodybuilder, so I go high reps, but I would I'm at least I would say my 1 rep max probably 315 or 350 or something. I'm not super strong.
So let's say that right now, to maintain that, you had to start eating animal products, where if you kept being vegan, let's say just hypothetically, you drop down to only being able to bench like say 100 pounds. Would you say that that's enough of a lack of strength and overall well-being that you would consume some animal products and to basically get your health up?
Well, I don't know. When it comes to like weightlifting and stuff, I think I don't think I would eat some animal products for weightlifting. Maybe if it was like for my own like life or something, like maybe if I had
Longevity.
some type of like illness or something and like I couldn't digest fiber or something and and the only way for me to have a good quality of life was to eat a small amount of animal products or something, I would say that would be the only situation where I might consider it. But for the most part, everything is fine. Like I'm super healthy. I don't see myself going down that path unless I don't think it would happen. But like for like a bench or something, like my bench press, I think I would let it go down. Like it's not, I feel like it's not that significant of a thing for me to have to kill something. Like like
Yeah.
yeah,
No,
'cause
that's
it's
yeah,
just
that's good.
it's just my like it's just how strong I am in the gym. But I would say if it was like a major health issue and like I had to eat meat or something, which I don't know, I never really like I don't know what type of illness you would have to have where you would need animal products. Like, maybe like Crohn's
Yeah.
disease or something, but like, but I've heard of people having Crohn's and going vegan too though. So like I don't know. And not fixing it. So I feel like it's
I,
just oh yeah, go ahead.
sorry. No, I was just like hypothetically, I like in the way that Carson has in the past said that if he was on a desert island or something and literally needed to kill a chicken to survive, that he would probably do it. That my own instincts for optimal health and like longevity of life is stronger, is just it's that strong. Like I just place my own health a little bit above animals. Obviously not in any way like taste, not like, because I do love eating animal, I grew up eating animal products, of course I like it. And it's but for the only thing for me that rises above being vegan would be if my health would deteriorate. If my health would decline, hypothetically, then I would go back to it to only the extent that I needed to. But that's, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's not bad. I felt if I like when I see people like in Africa and they're surviving out in the wild, I would never go up to them and be like, "Why are you guys killing wild animals?" Like like they're
Yeah.
surviving. I feel like that's how it's just supposed to be for them. But obviously, like we're in first world countries on expensive computers talking to each other, and we have supermarkets.
Yeah.
Like and like we have millions of vegans everywhere. I feel like most people couldn't do it. It's just I feel like veganism is hard for people because it's not comfortable. Like, you know, like you have to like first of all, being vegan, people are gonna troll you and stuff, and then like exclude you from like family gatherings, things like that. And you can't eat
Yeah.
at a lot of restaurants, and like there's a lot of it's not comfortable. But I feel like in like 5-10 years, as the numbers grow, it's gonna be a lot easier for people to do it, and I feel like that's when more people are gonna start doing it. Like, you know, like when it's easier. It's not comfortable to be a vegan right now. I feel like
It's
you have to like leave your
it's
comfort
easy,
zone and
but
sacrifice a
it's
lot.
easier now than it used to be, as far as I've heard. I've heard it used to be even worse. So,
Yeah, it used to be horrible.
mm, damn, like, yeah.
And then
The other thing, sorry. The other thing I'm actually still trying to figure out as well is, let's just hypothetically, I go to a family dinner or something, and they have an animal product on the table, and it's obviously already paid for. It was going to be there anyway. Do I and let's just say, like, it's something that's like a family cultural dish or something. Like, do I eat some because I didn't pay for it and it was going to be there anyway, or do I abstain? And am I abstaining to be a good example? That's another thing that I'm grappling with, that I'm not sure what I'm not sure what my correct answer is if I would feel the need to not have it at all, like at a holiday family event, or if I would allow myself to have it on that occasion because it's already there and I didn't buy it. What do you think?
I mean, me personally, I wouldn't. I like every time I go to a wedding or anything, they'll tell me like I'll go to like weddings and they're like, yeah, we have a vegan dish for you. It's never there. So I always bring my own food, always.
Yeah.
So like and like I feel like it's good if I abstain from it because like every time I do that, like last Thanksgiving, I abstained from eating any of the food there, and then a lot of people were asking me a lot of questions. They're like, oh, how are you doing that? Like and it started a lot of good conversations, and like I'm not like aggressive or anything, and people and I can have good conversations with people without me judging them and stuff, and like it makes people more open to it. So I feel like I do a good thing when I abstain from it. And, you know, I like a lot. Like I remember when I used to go on vacations when I first went vegan, I would never eat meat, but I'd be if I was on like a vacation, like home on vacation, and I would eat something that maybe had egg in it or maybe like a little bit of cheese sometimes. But then like I was like, why am I doing that? Eventually I stopped doing I was more plant-based back then though. I wasn't ethically vegan. But
Hmm.
then eventually once I started becoming more ethical, I completely just that's why I think it's good to make an ethical connection because I feel like if you're plant-based, like every once in a while you might like cheat a little bit because there's not I feel like being like healthy isn't like you can still eat a small amount of animal products to still be healthy. So I feel like if you're plant-based, you're more likely to slip. Ever since I've been vegan, I've never slipped. Like, you know, I've always been true to my core with like eating vegan and
Hmm.
stuff like that, and buying like vegan products only, like when it comes to clothes and things like that.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I one thought I want to throw out there on it is so the idea of your family purchases food and you didn't purchase it, it's already there. One element is whatever's left. So Thanksgiving, when people have like they eat half a turkey and then the other half's left, they're going to consume that later. So if you don't have any, then that's more for them to consume later. As soon as they run out of that, then they're going to purchase whatever else they're going to purchase. So the less you eat, the less the less they have to go out and purchase more. But then if you look at an example where whatever maybe you were going to consume would get thrown away, like let's say you were a waiter. I had a friend that was either vegan or vegetarian, and he became a waiter at a Applebee's. And at the end of the night, like there would be like if somebody ordered a meal and it was made wrong and it got returned, so nobody touched it. There's nothing wrong with it. And then at the end of the night, they were just saying anybody that wants to take this home can take it home, or else it's going to get thrown away. And if nobody wanted it, and you're vegan, and there's this meat, and it's going to go right in the garbage, I don't consider it not vegan to consume that. It's kind of the clean version of dumpster diving, which I also don't consider not vegan if it's getting thrown away anyways. But the problem about it is what Saul was saying, where it'll kind of trick you when you're at your weakest moments. If you just know I'm vegan, I'm not consuming this, then you don't have it in your mind. But if you aren't doing it for the health and therefore you don't mind eating the meat, if you eat something that's going to get thrown away, then the next day you might be, oh, I'm kind of craving this thing, and I had this yesterday, so I'll go ahead and have this today, and it kind of throws off the mindset. But if we're just talking about pinpointing what is moral or immoral and what we want to do if we're able to be our strongest, then I would call eating something that's going to be thrown away not immoral.
Yeah, it's like eating roadkill. Like I've always heard about
Yeah.
that too. Like technically, if you're eating roadkill, you're vegan because it's not like it got killed by accident and it's just gonna sit
Yeah.
there and rot away. So
Mhm. The comment section right now is all about roadkill and dumpster diving.
oh, it's funny.
There's no direct questions, but there's 3 people
Mhm.
having a conversation about the topic, and somebody was saying that they eat roadkill if it's like a freshly hit deer, and you can take it home and prepare it. It seems wonky, but if it were healthy for you, and if you happen to know how to do it, yeah, I don't
Might
see
as
the problem.
well, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, technically it's vegan. I feel like if it's roadkill, it's like and there's no environmental impact. Like it was in the wild, so like that's actually could be considered more vegan in certain ways.
Yeah, well, because if you fill up on it and
Kinda
it was going to
crazy.
go to waste anyways, then it would cause you to buy less things. And whether things are vegan or not vegan, any amount of purchasing things and having things be made is causing some sort
That's
of
true.
harm. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that is
I definitely applaud people that are up for doing it. I don't think I'd be up for doing it. I don't even think I'd be up for consuming the product of it if somebody did it and said, "Hey, I made this deer jerky." But I definitely help them hand it out to other people. So.
I definitely see your point with like kind of letting your mind slip a little bit. Like if you let yourself have something on like, oh well, it's already here at my family's house. And then yeah, like it probably would kind of weaken you a little bit for like
And
the
they'll
next
talk
day.
trash. They'll be like, "She's not really vegan. I seen her eat." Like
Mm-hmm.
Right. No, you're right. That's true. Like the perception from other people is also important. So yeah, no, I do agree with that. Yeah.
But I don't think it's horrible. Like especially with like you're in the beginning right now. I feel like it wouldn't be horrible for you. I feel like for me, people would be like, "This guy's a phony." Like
Oh yeah.
they'll tear me apart.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, so one thing I see as a concern, maybe in the vegan movement for someone like yourself, who especially, or even at this stage where you'd say, okay, I'm not consuming meat, I'm not consuming dairy, I'm not consuming eggs, but for right now, I'm going to have honey and I might have fish. I feel like a big problem in the vegan community is so many people, especially the loudest people on the internet, would start talking poorly to you about this idea, not recognizing the leaps of good that's happening. You're cutting
Yeah.
out eating cow, you're cutting out eating lamb, you're cutting out all of these different things. And so I think that for anybody listening, and if they have a different thought, share it with us. But that's what I just think is great. Like, and the whole time I've known you, which has been like a month, and just talking here and there, you just seem very kind and like you want to research it and take your time. And I think people forget what real humans are like because they forget what
Yeah.
it was like when they weren't vegan. But like right
Yeah.
now, I've been seeing this month's worth of time of you transforming from these different ways of eating, and it's been getting more and more vegan. Not that I'm even claiming you need to. If you decide to add eggs back in, but you still keep meat and dairy out, and you're being conscious of it and you're looking into it. It's just we all have our stages of life where we're figuring out what to do, and the kinder we are to each other. I mean, I know sometimes debates are fun. We could yell at each other about why things are and are not good. As long as by the end of the debate, we're like, we congratulate
Yeah.
people on doing a good
Yeah.
job and progressing.
And I would say, part of what's helped me get to this point over, I mean, again, like 1 month is not a lot of time, but what's helped me
Mhm.
get to this point partially is finding your channel and hearing your views of it, of like, being very gentle about it and allowing people to start by reducing. Because if I had just like if I had ended up talking to people who were more like that, where like any tiny little thing I might be doing, they're just gonna go off on me. I might not be almost all the way vegan right now. I might have not even researched anything and might still be like, yep, keto is the way to go. I'm going to keep eating like all the meat I can every day. So it's so important. Like some people being really gung ho about it can probably help some people, but there are so many people who need the gentleness. And I know I posted a post on like a Facebook group, a vegan Facebook group, just to ask opinions about the bivalve thing and mentioning that. And I got plenty of comments that were actually thinking about it. I'm like, oh yeah, I don't know. I think this, I think that. But I did get a couple, where like one person was just like, no, if you do that, no, he was just rude. It was just like, bivalves are animals, you carnist or something. Like, it was just like,
he's gatekeeping.
right.
I can't stand them. It's so annoying. I think what
Yeah.
you're doing is good, and it's good to have support. I think like you're doing really good. Like I wish I can get most people to even do what you're doing. So
I agree. Yeah. I thank you.
I eat mostly plant based. I encourage people to just be like, if you can't go vegan, at least try to like, if you want to better your health, go like 80% whole foods and
yeah.
maybe eat a small amount of animal products if you don't want to go completely vegan. But I think like a lot of times if I get people to eat that way, they'll feel so good they end up going vegan. And I'm not forcing it on them either. So like it's like I'm kind of just like, yeah, go. Like I'm kind of just holding the door open for them. Like, instead of like trying to shove them through it.
That's what I'm hoping for with my sister and my partner. I'm hoping to just like nudge and like how I kind of felt like I got nudged, like be kind of gentle about it and allow them to like, hey, you don't have to be perfect. This isn't like a one day to the next thing. Like just do better, just do your best. Like try to reduce, like we're going to have maybe like 3 entirely vegan days a week or something, stuff like that. It's very important.
Yeah, I think I agree. Every little bit helps, and I think it's also good to call people out if we think they're doing something wrong, but not in some like, if you do this, I will never talk to you again type of way. It's kind of like when people talk, with their friends about politics or something. You can say, this is why I think this is good. This is why, if you see somebody eating ice cream, you could be like, hey, in case you didn't know, this is how the dairy industry works. And there's these different vegan ice creams. And then, you can inform them that you think that this is causing so much harm, that you think their act that they're doing is not a good one. But you can also point out to them that you used to do that act as well. And if that they're not a horrible person if they don't change, it's just that you want to share these ideas. That's probably one of the bigger problems in the movement is it's not about sharing ideas. It's about saying you must be vegan or else. And it's not everyone doing that, but I just think that the kindness aspect can go a long way.
It's a what's the word? It's a God, what's the word I'm looking for? It's a mind thing. It's psychology. It's like a psychological thing where like it literally is psychology that a lot of people they can't like it's the cognitive dissonance is so strong and it's so subconscious that even showing like you could show someone things like you could sit someone down and show them videos from the animal industry and that still may not guarantee that they're going to be like, oh my God, I'm making the decision tomorrow. Like I'm going to stop. Like it can still go in and just kind of be filtered out because if they're not ready to hear it, they're not ready to hear it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to watch those videos. I remember I watched those videos before I was even like doing the plant-based thing. And like I would watch them and then I wouldn't eat meat for like a couple days and then I just start eating it again. Like what made me vegan eventually was like how good I felt. And I feel like most people they're gonna care about themselves. That's why I think like because I think people naturally kind of can be selfish a little bit. So I feel like health reasons is a good way to push it on people, even though it's not what veganism is at its core. It still can lead them in, like
I agree, because that's what helped me, is seeing the health aspect led me to the ethical side, and
Yeah,
that can be valid. I know like a lot of people are very like, no, it's not a diet, it's not about health. Like that can be true, but if you could lead someone to veganism through nutrition and diet, why wouldn't you? Because some people are going to be more receptive to that. Some people are just going to be more receptive to the nutrition aspect, especially if they're dealing with something, especially if they're already dealing with some kind of chronic disease, or they're not feeling great, and you get them to feel good. Then again, seeing that it was healthy allowed me to open my, it was like subconscious, but I sat there and I was like, you know what? I think I'm ready to look up the videos again. I think I'm ready to see things that show me what goes on in these farm factories. Because I wasn't ready to see it yet when I thought I had to eat meat for health. So
Yeah, that's why I strongly dislike when whenever I see something like vegan for the animals, or this doesn't need to be pointed out. Somebody can have a definition of what veganism means to them, or just the definition in general. And then outside of that, conversations just are what they are. If somebody's talking about the environment, that's fine. If that's a topic they want to talk about. But if they're talking about that and how veganism can help that, it's such a silly idea to go, veganism's for the animals, not the environment. Now, I personally don't talk about environmental stuff with it because it's just not a topic of interest for me. But the veganism is what it is, and if it happens to lead to health, what's wrong with talking about the health elements, especially if your goal is to cause less suffering to the animals? Then veganism as a conversation should be whatever will lead people to cause less suffering. And if leading people to that is talking about health, then it is. Not that we should trick people. It shouldn't be like, I'm going to trick you into this health thing so that you can accidentally help the animals. It just means that there's various different bits of information and ideas that might make people open their eyes to different things.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so honey. So you're continuing honey. Honey is interesting. So I want to look into honey further. I don't consume honey. And the first thing that got me on board for that many years ago is the honey, the bees are making it to consume it themselves. It is for them. And with industries like that, they basically, beekeepers will take bees around to pollinate different areas. I think one of the main things they're used for is pollinating almonds in California. And when the bees make the honey, we take the honey away from them, and then we feed them some kind of sucralose, basically a food supplement away from their natural food they made themselves, and it cuts their lifespan in half. And that's the main concern I've heard with bees. But recently, I've heard controversial things with the honey aspect, where there's different types of bees. So you have honeybees and wild bees, and different ones pollinate. And anyways, like most things, it's complicated, and there's a lot to look into. Like I don't think it's the end of the world to eat honey. I personally don't. But if I did, I'd probably try to have it be something local and raw, and I would maybe eat smaller amounts. I know some people do like their own backyard bees, like where they have this, you can purchase this thing essentially, where bees will come and make honey, and then little bits will drip into this thing that you can use yourself. But the majority of it they'll have for themselves. And it seems like a good way to bring like bees to your backyard for helping with your plants. So I don't have a firm stance on it, but again, if anybody does have a firm stance that's listening to this, if they want to link maybe a study, I could put it in the description for anybody listening.
Yeah, on the honey thing, just really briefly, I don't like honey as a product. I don't eat it. I don't really use it. It's literally just inside one thing that I buy right now, which is Kind bars, like with like, it has like almonds and stuff. And so it's used in that. So it's this small amount, I don't generally like honey. And the reason that I haven't stopped getting them yet is because in my mind, it's helping. It's like an emergency snack that me and my partner grab sometimes, and it's just been very helpful to be able to grab that as opposed to another. Like I used to more readily go to grab like a cheese or something, like something quick that you can grab. I replace like that. If I replace the cheese with the Kind bar, in my mind, that's better. So I just have to find a replacement for the Kind bar. I just haven't done it yet because it's not just me. It's a go-to snack for me and my partner. So I have to find something that we both enjoy to grab.
Yeah, no, that's good. Again, baby steps, and if you cut everything out but you continue a bar, that's great. Saul, do you have any recommendations for bars?
Nugo. Nugo bars are pretty good, and they have like 12 grams of protein. Not like a high amount of protein, but they taste really good.
Oh, okay.
Is that a NU or a NEW?
NUGO, but there's two types. There's one that has like higher protein. That one tastes a little bit chalky. The one that has like 12 grams of protein tastes a little bit better.
Okay.
I have some downstairs. I'm gonna grab them.
Oh no, you're
Yeah,
good.
just
I
send
wrote
it through the
I wrote
computer
it
screen.
down.
I'll grab it.
I wrote it down. I'll send Wendy an email with the named a reminder.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
I don't do bars that often. I like Lara bars because they usually have
I
like
like
have like 2 or 3 ingredients in the whole thing. It's just it'll be like medjool dates and cashews, and then the whole bar is just a combination of those. And then they'll have some where it's like peanuts, medjool dates, and like a splash of cinnamon or something. So it's like dried whole food compressed into a bar essentially.
Well, Luna bars are good too. I like Luna bars too.
All right. Okay, so there are options I got to try. Okay.
Cool. Yeah. I'm trying to think. Yeah, because I didn't know that you had cut meat out before this talk, so I was thinking that mostly it'd be a conversation about the animals that maybe you still consume. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of aspects. I'm curious to see how this journey goes for you since you've been in it only a few days. So maybe in a couple weeks we'll see. We'll see, like, maybe you slipped up a day here or there, or maybe you realize that if somebody prepares you a meal, you're going to be kind and take the meal, but you're not going to purchase it yourself and that kind of thing. Definitely curious to see how that all goes.
Yeah.
And if you do the fish, one reason to stay away from fish is like the oceans are so polluted. It's like high, like there's like a lot of heavy metals, mercury. It's not really like it's not healthy at all. It's like the oceans are so polluted. It's horrible. I feel like even if I wasn't vegan, I don't think I would eat it.
Yeah, I mean that's not a bad point. I like at the moment again I have some fish frozen in the freezer. So again, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, right now I'm still doing fish, but that could partially be because like I still have some that I'm gonna cook with some tonight because I spent money on it like a month
Yeah,
ago.
yeah. I don't think it's, like you're transitioning, so I don't think it's like horrible. You're not gonna like go to hell or anything.
I don't believe in hell, but well, yeah.
I'm going to pause you guys real quick because I just realized that in the chat, Chris Hines joined. And I'm curious. So, Chris, if you're still there, earlier we were talking about bivalves, and we're just wondering different vegans' thoughts on if it is ethical to consume things like clams and oysters and mussels. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to see if you have a comment on that. Okay, back to you guys, though.
Yeah, no, that's again with the fish right now. Like for example, the only restaurant that me and my partner ever go to now is a sushi place, and we always get the same thing. It's always it's got fish in it. So it's one of those things where it's like I don't know, like it's a transition. So right now I want to say like, well, maybe once a month we can still go to this restaurant for now. Or again, like I'm transitioning myself, but I feel like I'm also transitioning someone else, and I don't want to go so fast that it breaks down. So
Is he
that's
open to it?
what.
Is he open to it? He's open to it. Like he
Um, I've been bringing it up here and there, but I haven't pressed him for some kind of like answer. Like I need you to tell me, like some answer on what you think. I've been trying to give him time. I told him I want to know his thoughts on it, but I'm giving him time to think about it. I showed him some videos and I've been talking about the nutrition because I think again, sometimes that can be a little bit more of a motivator, is that nutrition aspect. So I'm again, this is only like this is less than a week old, so I'll have to get back to you on how it goes.
Haven't watched Game Changers. If you haven't watched it yet, if you watched that with them,
Alright.
yeah,
Yeah, I watched Forks
guys
Over
are.
Knives.
What'd you say?
I said I watched Forks Over Knives recently.
That's a good one too, but Game Changers, I feel like is more like guys can relate to that one a lot. It's about like athletes and like and like
Okay.
there's a lot of things that they talk about a lot of things that like can benefit men in there too. So and
Okay.
it's good. Like anyone can enjoy it, but I feel like that one's good for guys.
Okay.
All right, so I'm going to read Chris Hines' response to the bivalves real quick. He says, so bivalves are a gray area as we don't know, let's see, if they are sentient or not. As they are part of the animal kingdom and not plant, I give them the benefit of the doubt and do not consume them. So yeah, that's about what I've seen a handful of people think. I think that's a reasonable take. I don't. Well, Chris, I'm curious. Another follow up, if you want to respond to that, is if somebody was vegan but also consumed bivalves, would you consider them not vegan, or would you try to talk them out of it? Or is it just that you don't consume because maybe they are sentient, where you wouldn't judge others? And I don't mean judge in a negative way. I mean you wouldn't judge. You might judge somebody for eating like cows and pigs and stuff like that, but would you have any judgment you'd hold for somebody that ate bivalves? I'm curious about that. And then for you two, I don't know if you guys know Chris Hines, but he's a YouTuber and he does a bunch of debates, and I highly recommend everybody check
Yeah,
out his
definitely.
stuff.
Yeah.
His name sounds familiar.
Yeah, no, once you see him, you might recognize him from a debate you've seen. But yeah, Wendy, I think I think that one cool thing about becoming vegan is even though there are a lot of scary vegans out there that kind of push the message in a negative way, it's such a cool community that it might even feel exciting and awesome being part of it. That it makes you go full on into it. But since you are considering taking baby steps and maybe eating a little bit of this or that, I say keep doing that. Like just as long as you're being conscious of trying to do the best you can to not only to be healthy yourself, but to try to not harm animals when you can. That's kind of the goal. So even if you had sushi once a week, sure that's not vegan, and sure those fish most likely feel some pain, but you're doing 1,000 times better than if you had that and a burger once a week, and so on and so forth. Every little bit matters, I think.
Yeah, we go once a month about to the sushi place, and again, it's one of those things where maybe I will decide to cut it, or maybe I'll decide that it's one indulgence that we can still have that might help us keep on track for every other day of the year. Or every other day of the month. Other than that one day, maybe that would be what helps us stick to it. So yeah.
Yeah, it's hard in the beginning. When I first went vegetarian, I went vegetarian then pescatarian. I had a long period where I was like, I didn't even do it the way you're talking about. I would eat like fish like maybe a few days a week, and then eventually I decided to go vegan, 100, like go fully plant based because I felt so much better just cutting out all the animal products. Like I would still eat. I think back then I was still eating, just fish, no eggs or cheese, just fish sometimes. But that was like 10 years ago. Like I feel like it was like way harder. Like I've been plant based like 7 years, so it took me like a few years to transition.
Yeah, it's a little tough, but I mean, I'm looking up a lot of recipes, and what helped too is that even well, admittedly, doing the keto, like getting into the keto thing, it actually helped a little bit because I didn't go unhealthy keto. I went, well, not that keto's healthy in general, but I went like whole foods keto. So I was really learning how to eat a lot of getting a lot of processed food out. I got like almost all the sugar out of my diet and a lot of the processed food and junk food, and was doing whole foods, keto. So transitioning to a whole foods plant-based or vegan is, I actually feel like it's going a little easier because I learned how to like cook a lot of whole foods through keto. Oddly enough.
If you're doing keto, though, a good way to do it if you're gonna do it.
Yeah. I did feel better. Like I felt better at first, doing keto for like the first year. Well, I was low carb. I was keto strictly for like a month. That was really hard. So then I was just low carb, and I had a lot of progress, but then the progress started to wane, and I was looking into it, and like the studies show that keto/low carb works really well for the first year or so, and then the benefits start dropping off. And I was like, oh, that kind of almost makes sense. Like, I'm not feeling that great. My cholesterol went up. My blood pressure was going up a little bit. And I was like, and that's partially what had me looking into the diet stuff again, and like, oh, let me look into this. And I saw that the majority of science, like nutrition science, is on the side of plant-based.
Yeah, I think keto is just like a weight loss tool. I feel like that's all it's really good for. It's like some weight loss. It's like short term.
Yeah.
And veganism is like long term. It's like a lifestyle. So
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I feel like that's probably the biggest issue with diets is almost all diets probably work. If you stick to them, they'll make you lose the weight. But are they things that you would continue to eat? Because we're humans are so much of what we do is habit. So if we get in this habit and we let's say we're 100 pounds overweight and we drop that 100 pounds, we didn't really create a good habit. If it was just a habit for losing weight, you need a habit for how you continue to live. Whether you're vegan or not, it would have to be some form of a good habit. I hope that non-vegans eat, non-processed garbage. So they just would have essentially what we would have, like some kind of like whole food, healthy stuff. And then they also eat some meats, but they try to do healthier ones, grass-fed, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. It's health is a pretty strange thing for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I think unless you guys have any final thoughts, I think that might be a good point to wrap this one up.
Yeah, I do have to get going. So I have something going on soon, but this was a great talk. It was nice to meet you, Saul. Sal.
Saul, yeah, Saul.
Oh,
So I
okay,
guess
yeah.
it's Saul or Sal. It doesn't matter. Yeah, some people call me Sal.
Awesome.
Okay.
All right. Well, it was good talking, guys. This is the first time I've done this, but I think I'm just going to close you guys out of here because I might do a little final thoughts it's the first time I've done a live one of these.
You're kicking us out?
I'm kicking you out. But it was great. It was great talking, guys. And let's do it again soon.
We'll do it again. Yeah.
All right. Take care, guys.
Bye.
All right. So I'm just keeping up on some comments here. I haven't read this yet. Blah, blah, blah. So anyways, this is the first time I've done one of these. I thought that would have been more of a debate because I met Wendy when I started this channel about 2 months ago, maybe a month and a half. And at that time, she was eating meat and eggs and dairy, but wanting to cut back on it. And anyways, it turns out a couple days ago, she became mostly vegan, aside from eating bivalves, honey, and then she might consume fish still. So anyways, it didn't end up being too much of a debate. It was more of just a conversation on what it's like to go from not vegan to going towards veganism. So hopefully that was a fun talk. But I might do more of these, so let me know if you want me to do more of these. My email is in the About section if you want to email me about coming on one of these. Whether you're vegan or not, you could even come on and debate for the anti-vegan side. I've thought about doing some Ask Me Anything type things because I do have some interesting takes on veganism. And so if anybody has any thoughts, anything they want to ask me here, go ahead and do so. I'm going to be on here maybe another 5 minutes, but I might do some in the future where I do maybe reactions to vegan videos, but then I stop in between and answer questions. But the channel's pretty small, so it might not be a big enough channel to do Ask Me Anythings on any regular basis. But okay. So yeah, I'm just going to read through some of these comments. But if anybody did have any questions or thoughts on anything they want me to talk about, let me know. Just until maybe any questions come through. Oh, this is how long has Wendy been plant-based, Saul? Okay, so Tinknall, Wendy has, she's not officially plant-based, but I don't know if you caught what I just said a second ago, but it sounds like it was just like maybe 3 days ago she cut out meat, dairy, and eggs. Okay, so Jerome says thoughts on bivalve sentience. So I recently have been looking into this because I've been curious. So as long as there is no sentience, there's no suffering going on. I'm not against killing something. Like killing a plant to eat it. So with the recent research I've done, it turns out that scallops specifically are really high in omega-3s. And I take an omega-3 supplement from algae, but I like the idea of getting it other places. And it's also high in B12, and I believe it's high in D3. Interestingly enough, the 3 supplements I happen to take. And so I went to the store. I was going to buy some scallops, and I couldn't find any. And I found a can of clams. And it was, it seems to, I don't know if can is the best place to get it. But anyways, I bought it. I have not opened it. If I get convinced not to, I can always take it back. And I have not put any demand in for clams. I don't know if one issue with clams is maybe the people that collect the clams, other parts of the sea get destroyed, and that could be an issue. But again, I don't have time to look into every little thing. But I have looked into, at this point, I would consider bivalves to be not sentient, and I am okay with consuming them. One thing I talk about on this channel a lot is we learn things as we go. 100 or 200 years ago, we would have assumed that insects feel no pain. And there's a lot of studies where insects will do various things where an insect can be being eaten alive, but is still alive, and it'll like continue some kind of task and not act like it's affected by being eaten. And so it's complicated. We can witness this thing and go, oh, it seems clear this thing is not feeling pain. And in my mind, we should go with what's reasonable. If it doesn't seem like there's any pain or any likelihood of pain from anything we know, we shouldn't just avoid everything because of a potential. We'd have to go with what seems likely. And then now, if we discover certain insects or all insects feel pain, then we should try not to harm them when we can. So I might hold off on opening this can of clams because it just seems so foreign to me being a vegan. But if anybody has any thoughts that wants to talk me out of it, I will potentially take that can back. Let's see. It's been less than a week. Okay, so the name here, Rats, Pickles, and Music, that's Wendy, who was just on the talk. And she just said, it's been less than a week since I've been considering myself mostly vegan. They're basically mushroom. Okay, Veganism Rising says that that bivalves are the mushrooms of the sea, and that is what I've heard. Okay, so Phil says, I was wondering on what basis the previous commenter, so this is about Chris, thought the bivalves might be sentient. I don't think it's relevant that they are animals. Plants could be sentient, but they don't have a brain. So no, that's a good point. And I think Chris might have responded in here. From what I gather, they have the basics of nerve ganglia and exhibit basic animal-like behaviors. I can't prove that they are sentient, though. It's precautionary at this stage. Yeah, which is fair, and I obviously I wouldn't judge anybody for not doing a thing, for not consuming a certain thing. If somebody didn't like the taste of carrots, they could not eat carrots. And in this case, it's not doing something as a precaution to in case that they do have some sentience. But yeah, it seems like most evidence leans towards we at least can't detect sentience. So it really comes down to what things make you worry about possible detection in the future. Vegan Dawn said, anyway, all beings in the ocean waters are carnivores, so will that not make us carnivores too? I'm not sure if I follow that. Like if eating the bivalves makes us carnivores? Yeah, I'm not sure about that. Okay. Okay, let's see. Jerome says, I don't think they're sentient, but the theory is the nerve ganglia is early development of a brain, which may give rise to the sentience, especially if we agree that sentience is involved. Give rise to by give rise to sentience, do you mean like through evolution? They might someday develop a brain. Let's see. Okay, so Wendy said, if bivalves are truly a gray area, then I don't think it should be a deal breaker whether someone is vegan or not. I'm glad this comment came up because I really don't think anything should be a deal breaker if somebody is whether or not somebody is vegan or not. Now, some things are so clear that it's like if somebody was eating dairy, then you could clearly point out this is causing harm and we have enough information to show that we do not need this dairy. So if you're continuing to do it, you're choosing your taste buds over them. But I'd say most things are a gray area. There's just all these different shades of gray. And so it's complicated, kind of like the thing where if you're on an island, would you eat an animal? I would. I think most people would if they are on an island. And now the problem is if you have a lot of gray areas, then it might lean people. A lot of people are followers and they just like to do a mixture of what makes sense, but also what other people are doing. So they will, sorry, I keep seeing myself and then losing track of what I'm saying. So it's easy for somebody that if there's not a clear message, it's hard for them to stick to it. So that's why I do like the idea of there being a specific way of being vegan. But when you have things that are complicated, like this bivalve thing, I don't even think it's as simple as we should all decide together that this is fine to have. I think we should each individually be trying to be the best we can and trying to not cause harm unnecessarily. And so if we're doing this act that causes harm, we should make sure that it really is doing something important, similar to the chicken on the island situation. So if we're trying our best, then it would mean that individually, when we hear about this bivalve situation, we could go, oh, like I'm vegan, I care about animals, I'm going to do everything in my power to not harm them. But I'm also going to consume these bivalves. It's kind of like, so recently I've heard a lot about rodenticides, which is it's a crop death argument, but and most crop death arguments I find kind of silly, but this one has intrigued me. And if somebody could find out which companies use more of rodenticides or which companies where fresh produce come from that cause more harm from rodenticides, and you could choose a different company, I would say maybe that's the better choice. Now, that doesn't mean that people are not vegan because they chose this produce that caused more suffering. But the more time you have to look into these issues and the more you can do your best to not cause these harms, like, so I live in Oregon, in the States, and I have about maybe half a year where I can grow produce. And I have a pretty big backyard. A lot of people don't have that option, but I grow a lot of stuff. I'll grow potatoes. I'll grow a ton of tomatoes. I almost never have to buy tomatoes between late spring and throughout fall because I grow my own. So in those cases, I'm not causing any harm by these pesticides and rodenticides and all these things. But everybody's different and everybody has their capabilities. So it's kind of just a working towards your best. Let's see. Chris asked what the discussion was on honey. So basically, Wendy here was it just started going vegan a couple days ago and is still consuming honey. And Saul, who was part of the conversation, did not know all the details that go into honey. My statement, from what I know, is that when we take honey from bees, we replace that with I think it's sucralose, and they just essentially consume an unhealthy diet for themselves. That it's a processed version of garbage we give them, and it cuts their lives in half. And that's the only thing I know of why honey would be an immoral thing to have. And so but I'm curious, I've also heard various different things about there's different types of bees, and how maybe there's honeybees, but there is also different non-honey bees that do pollinating, and somehow people think that that has an effect on why we should consume honey. So yeah, Chris, I'd be curious to hear your thoughts. Chris said queen bees also have their wings cut off to stop them from leaving the hive. Yeah, that's right. I did read about that, and that seems pretty wild. I'd be curious to know what their level of pain is from that. I'm pretty sure it's well known that bees and other insects do feel pain, but if it was like bivalves, where they're technically animals, they have mouths, they have these actions they do, and if you ripped wings off, they wouldn't be able to do this thing they're designed to do. But if they didn't feel any suffering, that would be an interesting level to look at, what that means for how we act upon it. What other things would you consider gray areas out of interest? Rodenticides are also... Okay, Chris said rodenticides are also used by animal ag, especially within factory farming. No, it's a good point, and I think that's why we just have to work towards the best we can do. I think with rodenticides, there are sound machines that the pitch rodents don't like, and it'll make them leave. You can put these machines under your house. I don't know if they're perfected, but I think once they're perfected and we can have sound machines that can go for a certain radius in a field, that will be the ideal thing, because it is kind of depressing that rodents will consume this poison and then internally bleed until they die this horrible suffering death. But yeah, that happens to get us the products that we feed to cattle, but it also happens in the products that we eat ourselves. So I don't know, maybe vertical farming and a handful of different things will get away from this. It's definitely not a reason to not be vegan. It's just something worth thinking about and something worth finding out what the studies are. So Chris asked what the other gray areas are. I don't know. It's kind of complicated. So for me, I care. People hear me say this way too often, but I care more about my own health and myself than probably anything there is. And I feel good that I can be honest and state that. I think most beings at all kind of feel that way. We have evolved to want to stay alive, and part of that is being healthy. And so, and then after that, it's my loved ones. So anybody I've never met before, I probably care about a lot less than my loved ones. And if a million people were going to die from this horrible accident, or 50 of my closest loved ones were going to die, and I got to pick one, I'd probably let the million go. Maybe I'd change my mind if I thought about that further, but I feel like that's the route I'd go. So anyways, when it comes to this idea of protecting ourselves, protecting our loved ones, if we're on an island, we did eat a chicken to survive, all these different things. Something that I think is sort of a gray area is how much, well, it's not a gray area because let's just say this. I feel convinced that a vegan diet can be healthy. I've been vegan for 8 years. I have a 6-year-old daughter that's been vegan since birth. I know plenty of people that have been vegan, and it seems to be a lot of studies showing that veganism is a good route to go. It is somewhat new in a sense. Veganism itself isn't new, but studying veganism and studying anything really is kind of new. So knowing that we could maybe detect something in the years to come, I like to look at hypotheticals. And I imagine that if we were to find out that we would be extremely healthier on consuming some form of animals, I don't know how much health I'd be willing to sacrifice for my care to save animals. And a more extreme hypothetical would be if we were carnivores, but with the ability to not eat them, I wouldn't sacrifice my own life for them. So I guess it's not a gray area. It's just a thing I like to look at and be honest about. And I basically have to survive and be healthy and take care of myself. And then aside from that, I don't want to harm any animals. So I haven't had to eat any animals in about 8 years now. And then anyways, I don't think most people should have, or most people should. I don't know if that's really really a gray area. It's just a topic I like to go over. Another one thing, Chris, that is a gray area, I think, is and I've been talking to some people about it recently, and it is if the life matters. If I care about the suffering. If an animal can suffer, I don't think we should make it suffer. That's clear to me. But if it turned out that an animal had no care to live, if it is existing and it's just going along doing its thing, but let's say it has no connection to tomorrow, if no other animal, like even its closest animal friend, wouldn't even miss it the next day because the brains aren't designed for that, I think it's sort of a gray area of how much the death matters. If you could just magically, without any suffering, make an animal, let's say a cow. I know cows can have great feelings, especially mother cows cry out for their calves. But just imagine a non-mother cow. Let's say if there's no other feelings outside of that, and they can't think to any future. If you just snapped your fingers and it fell over dead, would there be a moral issue there? And I think it's complicated. I don't think we'll find an answer for it. And my current go-to is let it live, and animals should be far away from us. But that's kind of something I'd call sort of a gray area. Chris mentioned that bees are also killed during harvesting, the harvesting of honey, and are regularly shipped through the mail. Yeah, so that's the thing. I don't think we should have any connection with animals. Like even at some point, I really think that we shouldn't have pets, or even to the level of like seeing eye dogs, anything like that. In the meantime, we got to do what we got to do, and we're doing it. But if we are working towards a better future, I really don't think we should use animals. So shipping an animal through the mail, even having harvesting of any kind involving bees. Now, again, we should protect ourselves. If we're on an island, we kill a chicken. Same thing would go if for some reason bees stopped doing any of the pollinating. Then maybe we would have to take them to do the pollinating for us. But in the way we're doing it now, I don't think it's necessary. I don't think for companies that are just greedy to do this thing, it's necessary. So if there were a situation where honey was acceptable to eat, like let's say hypothetically that honeybees made a certain amount of honey, but they only consumed half of it, and we just went in the wild and took that honey, I really don't think that would be an issue, but I don't think we should control the animals aside from when we make our homes and our streets. I do think we should control them out of danger. I think we should do a better job of keeping deer off of the roads and stuff like that because they can't adapt to knowing that a car is going to hit them, as far as I know. And so yeah, I don't think we should have much direct involvement with them. Let's see. I think veganism is just to be healthy enough. Like, what's worse? Let's see. A slight to moderate iron deficiency or slaughterhouse. Interesting. Yeah. So that's the thing. I don't know to what degree. Let's imagine that if I was doing the healthiest vegan stuff I could do, and me at 100%, or let's say the healthiest thing was not vegan, and me at 100% of being healthy and not vegan, how much of that health would I sacrifice to not slaughter animals? I really don't know the number. I would definitely sacrifice some. I would sacrifice some health to protect animals, but I wouldn't sacrifice a lot. Sort of in that conversation that Alex O'Connor had with Earthling Ed, where he said, if being vegan made you drop down to being 3 feet tall instead of 6 feet tall, would you do it? And I don't think I would, for various reasons. But if I had to eat one fish a month to be 6 foot tall instead of 3 feet tall, I would definitely eat one fish a month. I don't know to what degree though. And so with this, it's even more complicated. Like B12 is very good for your brain health. If we couldn't do a supplement and we had to get it through food, well, I'd say we should do bivalves. But if they didn't have it and we had to get it, let's say we had to get it through cows, I would say that in that case, we would care about our own health. We would kill as few cows as possible to eat as little amount of cows to get that B12 in. To me, I think that's reasonable. But luckily we don't have to because there are supplements. We should do them, and we should probably focus on cyanocobalamin. I'd look up the recommendations from nutritionfacts.org. Okay, Chris said, if I understand you correctly, I would disagree with that. Looking purely at suffering is more of a welfarist argument. Rights violations should be the focus. Overall, I think maybe as far as what's important to the animals, I think definitely not. I think the focus should be whatever is going to get us in the right direction. So if we try to preach full on veganism to everybody, and let's say it took a certain amount of time to get to some level we would want to, I think what would happen way quicker would be something like if we get everybody in on the conversation, if we get all the vegetarians and all the carnists, I don't really like that word, but it is a quicker word to use. But, we get all the omnivores that don't really care much about the idea of veganism, that do care about animal suffering, but since they can't usually be part of our conversation because we say vegan or nothing, if we could get those people to go like, okay, keep eating your animals, do your thing, but look at the suffering they're going through. Shouldn't we push our politicians to change regulations? I really think if we could get factory farms essentially gone, although they can't be gone, then we'd just call whatever farms are left factory farms. But if we could get it to the point where the regulations are drastically changed, and even to the point of, like, I think one of the most important things we've ever done was get body cams on police officers because they have so much power. We need to keep an eye on what they're doing. So something like if as a society we legally accept that people can eat animals, if we recognize that it is causing this suffering and pain and some people will abuse this power, I think every farm of any kind, factory or not, should have to have cameras that capture what they do that can be seen from the government. I think the government should be able to make sure that they are not abusing these regulations, and the regulations should open up and do better for the animals. And then I also think all the subsidies should be removed. I don't know a lot about it, but if the subsidies were removed and if maybe it had to be taxed at a higher rate due to carcinogens, similar to cigarettes are taxed higher, then this would push us in the right direction where people are openly talking about this big important issue. And then at some point it might get to the level where we definitely 100% know that you can be as healthy as possible on a vegan diet. At some point there might be laws that would go in place preventing the killing of animals. But I think that's so far down the road that the best thing to do is to get non-vegans in on the conversation about not hurting animals, because no person that eats animals wants to go punch a cow in the face and just watch it be sad. They just think that it's justified to do this thing that they've been doing forever. But if we have relaxed conversations with them, I think that's probably the most important route to go. But it's tough. I'm not against the idea of sharing the message of rights violations. Like I'm not trying to push onto people that we should stop owning animals, like pets and whatnot. But I will share that that's my idea. Not my idea, but that's what I think is best. Like, I don't think we should keep these animals kind of slaves to us, and so I'm not going to use that message in a way that will make people not focus on the bigger picture, but I will be honest about my opinion on that. So I think you should be honest about rights violations. I'm not trying to say you shouldn't. Let's see. VL Now says you cannot grow fruit or veggies without bee boxes placed on the farms. I have worked on commercial farms. I wonder if that's true. Yeah, I don't know if it's the size of the farm, the size of how much is grown. Like, I have a garden, and I don't do anything as far as bringing bees, but bees show up to my garden. I don't know if it's just trickier otherwise. But that's worth knowing, because similar to the idea of people having the argument of cow manure is needed for growing produce. Okay, so if this were true, I don't think this is true, but if it were true, then the vegan thing to do would be to keep as many cows as you need, that you don't make suffer, you don't kill them to eat them, but they exist and they're kind of maybe owned by whoever to get the manure. Maybe even a company can own them, strong regulations in place. They get the manure, and then we grow our food. We have to do whatever we have to do, but it doesn't mean because we need this manure, we need to kill them. So that is worth thinking about. Chris said, otherwise people can make an argument it's okay to kill an animal that doesn't suffer, before which wouldn't it be ethical to violate their right to life. No, I agree with you. I just think it's why it's a better focus. If you could get a certain amount of meat from a cow that was at this factory farm that had this sucky tortured life and then it was killed, or you could get meat from like a deer that it lived its life in a great way out in the forest, and then a hunter shot it and killed it instantly. The more moral thing to eat would be the meat from the deer. It doesn't mean that we should violate the deer's rights to life, but it means that that's why the law has a big impact on how these things work and how I think we should treat them. It took me a while to get to this level of thinking about this. And I'm not saying that I'm necessarily right, but since people can legally eat animals and we cannot make them not, we cannot force them not to, and they might not even listen to us at all anyways, if we can convince them to do things that cause less harm, that's what matters in the meantime. Now, if you could magically make it illegal to kill animals, then you would, and there wouldn't be a discussion on if the suffering is more important than their death. But if they are going to die anyways, I would rather not breed this cow into existence and shoot this deer in the head, because in either case there is a death, but in one of the cases there's suffering and death. No. Okay, so Chris reacted to VL Now and said, now all farms use bees to pollinate, but there are a lot that do, but he probably meant a lot that don't. Or maybe it was not all farms, but it came out as now. But anyways, yeah, I do want to look into that. I think that is very interesting. Oh my gosh, I got so behind on these comments. Um, okay, let's see. Jerome said once lab grown is readily available, there should be a serious legal consequence for farming animals. Yeah, I think lab grown meat will be one of the main things that shifts people over. And I think it'll be the thing that makes people very soon look back and say, I can't believe we ever did this. Chris said people could just argue some local family farm who treat their cow like a pet before they kill it, before they kill them, wouldn't be an issue because they don't suffer, if you get me. Yeah, and I think that's a good argument. I think, and it's why I'm looking forward to. I want to go to different farms around where I live and meet people and see what their conditions are like. Maybe film some videos for YouTube, and I want to encourage meat eaters I know to stop purchasing the factory farm stuff and instead to purchase this other stuff from this local place. Not that I think it's good to own animals and to kill them and eat them, but if you're going to, I think we always should be looking. Here's what I think. I think this is the most important thing when it comes to veganism. We should look at the worst issue, the main issue that needs to stop, and then we should work towards stopping that. So in my mind, it's something to do with dairy farming. I think the process of how dairy is done is the worst thing. If somebody ate meat, dairy, and eggs, and I could get them to cut out one thing, it would probably be dairy. Now, this is complicated because if they only ate a little dairy and a lot of meat, maybe it's better to cut out the meat. So we should constantly be trying to, sharing the message, try to get people to be vegan, but if they're not going to be vegan, and we can have calm conversations with them, like I had, with Wendy back a month and a half ago, then maybe they can at least change something, because it's not like a religion where you have to become this religion or you're not that religion. You can't be halfway that religion. It's, in my mind, we care about animals, and so for some of us, like me and you guys, we're full on vegan, but other people that are not vegan, they don't legally have to be vegan. So it's best if we get them to do the best they can and to be open and honest about it. Let's see. Okay, Tinknall said owning animals for manure production would be entirely economically unfeasible. Maybe, but what we would have to do whatever was best. Like that's why I don't think veganism can be debunked. Even if we had to all be carnivores and eat only meat, that would still be the vegan thing if that's what was best. We have to do what causes the least amount of suffering and taking away rights violations of animals. And if it turned out that we were causing more suffering with crop death, like people like to bring up, and again, I would focus on nutrition. If it's healthier to eat the plant-based stuff, then maybe it's worth those sacrifices. But if it's not, let's just say all animal and plant stuff, let's say it was all equal nutrition. If we cause more suffering bringing these plants in, then we should switch over to eating only animal products, only meat. And that would be the vegan thing. There's no thing that makes the vegan answer the wrong thing. It's just, if you care about non-human animals and their suffering when it's not necessary for our own well-being, then you want to work towards causing the least amount of suffering and ending lives. Okay, forget your garden. If you own an orchard with thousands of trees, you need bee boxes to get a connotative yield Go visit the orchard in bloom. That's a lot of flowers. No, that's a fair point. Maybe that is what we need, and if that's what we need to feed the amount of people we have, then that is, and maybe we should do that. You can make an argument that, let's see, that would be more moral, but both are immoral. I think giving a message that killing the deer is better, let's see, a better choice rather than both are bad gives a wrong message. Yeah, that's reasonable. I mean, I don't think so. And I used to give that message, and currently I give the one I'm giving. And I feel like I've been talking to a lot of people. I'll even talk to some hunters about this kind of thing. And I feel like people, when they feel like they're not being attacked, I don't mean tricking them into talking. I just mean having an honest conversation and not going for that route. Because honestly, I want less suffering. And also I want less rights violations. So either route I could go is something I feel. I feel like it's not giving the wrong message, because you can give both. You can say like, hey, I don't think this. I haven't had to eat meat. I haven't had any health problems. I feel fine. But if you're going to eat meat, then this. I think it should all be kind of one conversation. And I'm so used to seeing people on social media, just like if somebody's saying like, oh, I'm thinking about going vegan. I don't think I can cut this, but I'm cutting out all these different things. And then I just see people get on there and attack them for the thing that they're not cutting out. And I think it should just be, we should recognize that even if something's wrong, if people can legally do it, there's no point to attack them, because it being legal doesn't make it moral, but it being legal makes them be able to do it. So there's no reason to attack in my mind, even the most severe things. Like, I think one of the biggest changes that needs to happen legally is that baby boy circumcision needs to be illegal. And I argue with people a lot about it. I do podcasts about it, and there's no point in attacking the person, even though I think this extreme horrible thing's happening. So I think we just need to, sadly in this case though, there's no better or worse, like do this instead. It's just, it happens or it doesn't happen. But at least with animal agriculture, we can work towards there being less suffering. So I think that's a good approach. I might not have caught up with all the comments, but Chris, I am curious if you know about the bee box element of like an orchard, and if that's necessary, and what you would think should happen if we shouldn't have the bees there. Would it just be that those orchards would produce less fruit? I'm curious what you think should happen there. Let's see. A bill of rights for animals would reduce suffering and consumption. We need an app to check on the conditions of the animal products we buy. Like a QR code that shows us exactly where the meat came from and conditions we can scan before we buy. And that would be incredible. I was imagining what it would be like if when somebody had to go buy a thing of eggs, if right next to the eggs was a blender with a baby chick in it, and they had to blend the chick up before they could take the egg to see if they would be accepting what happens with the industry. That'd be morbid, obviously, but it'd be interesting. We can encourage bees to come to our orchard, etc., without taking from them or traumatizing. Truly free-range bees. That's what I was saying, and somebody said that you couldn't really do that with an orchard. I'm just not sure with the information. Tinknall said, I named my pig Bananas because she loves bananas. She enjoys a great life and will until butcher day. Interesting. Tinknall, do you do like regenerative farming? Do you like, I'm guessing you don't have to do what the typical factory farming process is, where you clip out the teeth of the pig and cut the tail off. And the castration, I'm not sure if you do that. But yeah, I'm not in favor of owning pigs and killing pigs, but if you're going to do it, I would much rather that pig run around free range, having as good of a life it could, versus being crammed in a small area with their teeth cut out and their tails cut off. So every little bit. Chris said technology will sort the manure issue down the line. It's a temporary issue for sure. Yeah. Plus, there are already veganic farms that don't use the manure at all. Look up Tolhurst Stock Free Farm. I'm making a note right now. Got it. Okay. Chris, farms like that are very labor intensive. Even if that were true, there'd be no reason they can't come from labor intensive. Yeah, I agree with Chris here. Although, it's complicated. I don't want to just stand firm on something. Jerome says, I think rights violations are okay if well-being increases because of it. Yeah, in some cases. I mean, that's very complicated. I'd like to have a talk about that. Come on the podcast and we'll talk about that. Interesting, Chris. Okay, you would never say in your advocacy that one is better than another. So if you're out on the street having a table talk with somebody, and what if they asked you? What if you preach the vegan message? They say that they go hunting, but they don't like to harm. They don't like to harm animals, but they'll kill them to eat them. So they don't eat factory farm stuff, and they only eat whole food, plus they kill deer and maybe go fishing. And so whatever they get themselves, let's leave the fishing out of it. They shoot the deer so it dies instantly. And then they say to you, like, is it better if I do this than this? Do you just have a stance where you say, I'm against it all, so I don't want to answer that? Or would you tell them if it was a direct question? Vegan Pundit said bees are not the only pollinators. That's true. I think butterflies pollinate and some other things. But it could probably be easily tested, and the reason they do the boxes is because it's been tested throughout history that even with all the pollinators that exist, bringing the bees to the orchard helps probably more than not bringing them. I don't think that's necessarily right. Again, it would come down to if it's affecting their way of life and pain and all that. But assuming that it does, I don't think it's necessarily right. Okay, Tinknall said, I pasture raised, had 2 uncut boars last year. Good meat as long as you don't let them get too old. Interesting. Uncut. I'm guessing that's referring to the teeth and the tails. Yeah, I would imagine they wouldn't cut the teeth and the tails at all if you have an open pasture. But and then you said that you had 2 uncut boars. So I guess it just depends on how you purchase them. Interesting. Okay. Beginning farming is a potential. Okay, here we go. Chris said, I wouldn't have an issue with saying it may be less horrible death, but I would still stand strong on both options being unethical regardless, as they violate the right to life. Okay, fair enough. Okay, I think this is probably a good place to stop. Vegan Pundit, I got your email and I'm going to be responding to you soon. We'll set up a talk. Chris, I would love to have a talk with you. I've watched a bunch of your stuff and I think you are doing great things out there. Anybody watching this and listening, my email is in the About section on my my YouTube channel. So send me an email and let's set up talks and we can have some of them go live or not live. We can set up debates too. But yes, Chris, please get in contact with me or put your email here so I can write it down before I get out of here. And let's talk. stage in the middle of making a limited time. Okay. Chris is working on a documentary. We'll probably do a talk in the future. Awesome. Looking forward to that documentary. Yeah, awesome. Okay. Well, it was good talking, guys. And you guys all have a good one. Take care.